Welcome to my virtual diner. Pull up a seat at the counter, get comfortable. Most shows talk about the people, I talk to them. This is Real America with me, Bridget Phetasy. All right, welcome. A lot of people don't know my backstory, and if you already do, I apologize for having to hear it again, but you're going to hear it again. It's long, so I'll try to keep this brief. Tonight we're talking about addiction and recovery. For those of you who don't know, I am 11 years sober plus some change, and so I'll give you a little bit of backstory before we get into it. I started drinking at age 12 and smoking weed at 13. I was a daily weed smoker by 15 and drank every chance I got. By the time I was 17, I was going to bars, which is where I was drugged and date raped. And then my drug use escalated after that from weed and mushrooms to cocaine and meth and eventually black tar heroin, which gave me the sweet, sweet relief from my brain that I'd sought my whole life. I mostly chased the dragon, which means smoked it and snorted it. And so, by junkie pride standards, I wasn't a real junkie, but my addiction nearly killed me. And I ended up in the hospital at age 19, weighing 89 pounds, and with bronchitis so bad I had to be put on oxygen. From there, I went to a mental ward where I kicked heroin, and I do not recommend that. And from there, I went to a halfway house where I lived for 7 months. Like I said, I'm glossing over a lot. You would think that losing my health, my family's trust in me, my college, my apartment, and ending up in rehab would have been enough to scare me straight forever. But there was no way I was quitting drinking before I turned 21. I'm Irish Catholic after all, and it's in my blood. I told myself that heroin was the problem and that was just why I was an addict. And then I was off to the races about 2 months out of rehab, meaning drinking, drugging, and all of the things for another 15 years that followed. But I did everything but heroin in that time. And somehow I didn't die. It's a miracle because so many people better than me died for doing much less than what I was doing. I also decided in this time that the 12-step programs were the problem and did everything in my power to avoid returning to those church basements. I tried therapy. I became a yoga instructor because, of course, I did. I tried California sober, which means smoking only weed, which is madness because you're not sober at all. You're high. You're just not high and drunk. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging people. I do not judge anyone who uses it for harm reduction purposes. Better weed than meth, I always say. And I tried everything because I couldn't bear the idea of abstinence, even though I knew in my heart after that first stint in rehab that it was the only way for me. In 2013, eventually, I bottomed out at age 35 completely emotionally and found myself thinking about copping heroin on a flight back to LA after burning every bridge with my family again on a trip home. And I knew this thought was basically a decision to kill myself and decided before I did that, I should hike up to Mescal Canyon, like a moment of clarity. It's recently torched in the Palisades fires, for those of you who don't know, which is very sad to me. Dragging my ass up that mountain, I was just toxic. I had toxic thoughts. I had cocaine coming out of my pores. I was so filled with self-loathing and disgust. I wanted to throw myself off the mountain. But halfway up that trail, again, a moment of clarity. It was a God shot, whatever you want to call it. I had the thought that I should go to a 12-step meeting, which I did that night. And I met my sponsor, who was the best woman ever for me at the time. And I've been sober ever since, somehow, truly a miracle. If you know my history briefly, it is a miracle that they have this, there's this expression there, but for the grace of God go I. This could have rolled in a lot of different directions. And I'm lucky I even got a second chance. I would like to say it was easy. It was not. There are really two parts to recovery: getting sober and living sober. Getting sober is hell. If you can even get to the point where you admit you have a problem, consider yourself lucky. Like I was just saying, many people don't live to have the chance to try. It's it's a nightmare. You're kicking, you're detoxing, you're cranky, you're emotionally unregulated like a toddler. If you're like me, you have no coping mechanisms. You're out of your mind. I was like emo, goth chick in these meetings, chain smoking cigarettes and pounding coffee and judging everyone. You're a nightmare to be around, and you're probably in a lot of self pity. At least that's how I was. Or maybe you take up running and decide to do a marathon. I don't know. If you can make it through the physical cravings and discomfort, this is actually the easy part. You'll realize on the other side. The hardest part for me in particular was living sober. I didn't know how to do anything with a clear mind or sober. I couldn't even fly on a plane sober. Kicking weed was actually harder for me than booze. And I'm pretty sure it took me 2 years for my brain to rewire itself. And I'm happy to take questions about weed and talk about that too, because I was definitely an alcoholic, but I was also a raging weed addict, and my true love is and was marijuana. I thought I was high functioning until I got sober. I mean, I was definitely functioning high, but they say that when you've been sober, when you get sober, that it's like you've been driving 100 miles an hour and suddenly slam on the brakes and all this shit you've thrown in the back of your car flies forward. So here you are with no coping skills in a meeting or whatever, trying to pick up the pieces of your life. Honestly, it's a miracle anyone gets sober at all. Every time I see it, I realize I'm witnessing a miracle because it's just not easy. My first couple of years, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was a giant, irredeemable loser and that my life was basically over and that I had screwed it up completely forever. But I kept going one dumb day at a time. I kept showing up at meetings and rolling my eyes at the slogans like let go and let God and keep it simple. But I stayed sober and life started changing. My relationships got better as my relationship to myself improved. There's a very simple slogan that gets repeated a lot in the rooms. It says, if you want self esteem, do esteem of blacks. A novel idea for me at the time. Another one that was truly life changing for me is pause when agitated or doubtful. I use it pretty much daily to this day. It's such simple wisdom and it's given freely. And it's in these early years I learned about how it's only through action can we change our thoughts, not the other way around. I was always trying to think my way into different actions, and that just never worked for me. And about 4 years in, I met my husband, Jiren. We have a daughter and live in a suburb outside of Austin, Texas. And I joke a lot that my sponsor, make this joke on stage. Some of you have probably seen it. And my sponsor told me that I wouldn't recognize myself if I stayed sober. And she was absolutely right. If you had told me that I'd get sober and 11 years later I'd be a Texas suburban mom, I never would have quit drinking ever. All jokes aside though, I truly cannot believe my life. I can't believe I get to do this show and talk to you. I'm going to get emotional. I can't believe I have a community of subscribers at Phetasy.com and who have followed me over the years from one platform to another, who have allowed me to remain independent and say whatever I want. But more importantly, I've gotten to know you. You've seen me grow. You made blankets for our daughter and supported us when our beloved dog Hope died almost a year ago. And I can't believe just what a amazing virtual community of truly wonderful people I get to associate with and know and enjoy. I can't believe I have a company that employs other people. This is beyond my comprehension. I can't believe I'm a regular at the Comedy Mothership. A big part of why I got sober was comedy, but that's another tangent for another day. And all of it, it's all beyond my wildest dreams. But honestly, these are bells and whistles, a lot of it. What I have today, and what I wouldn't give up for anything, is an inner peace I've never had, and a love for my husband and daughter that seemed completely out of reach to me in that darkness. There were so many times I wanted to give up on sobriety and ultimately myself. And the people around me carried me. I would not be here without them. They told me dumb things that drove me crazy, like, don't quit before the miracle happens. And I owe my life to these people and to a simple program that was given to me for free by other people who knew what it is like to be in the prison of addiction and self. And I'm so glad I listened to them and not my crazy brain. And I wouldn't be here without them. And I know from just the numbers that I look at, there are so many people and so many different forms of addiction. It's not just substances. We have gambling addiction and we have dopamine addiction and porn addiction. And I know the hell that addiction can wreak havoc on your life and the people around you. And I just want everyone to know out there who's struggling with it that if I can turn my life around, the hot mess express that everyone knows I was, and cousin Maggie can vouch for that, then you can too. And tonight we'll be hearing from my husband, Jiren Montgomery, and my love. And of course, I want to hear from you. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things to say and experiences with this yourself. And to all the people I did hurt in my addiction, um, if I haven't made an amends to you, I owe an amends to you, and I will just keep trying to live as as well as I can, I guess. But first, before we get to it, some quick housekeeping. If you want to be called on, you need to be on Zoom, on camera, and you need to virtually raise your hand by clicking on the reactions button. If you aren't on Zoom and want to be part of our virtual live audience right now or in the future, click the link in the description below to get the Zoom link below or go to tway.tv / Bridget Zoom. The Zoom link is the same link every time, every week. So put it in your calendar and save it. This is where you'll come. The voice of God you're hearing is cousin Maggie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Maggie. She's given me places to stay when I've been homeless over the years. And as she's the vault of all the stories. Maggie knows where all the bodies are buried. Many of you already know her. She's my cousin and co-producer. We make a lot of stuff together, like our other shows, Dumpster Fire, Walk-ins Welcome, and all the content you can find at Phetasy.com, where the amazing community of people. I truly love them. Maggie will be monitoring the chat. If you have something to say and you raise your hand, Maggie will message you privately to find out what you'd like to talk about. She's going to make sure that we stay on topic. Don't be mad if she cuts you off. We can't guarantee we'll get to everyone, but we'll do our best. And everyone knows my number one rule is don't be a dick. So please don't act like me in a 12-step meeting with 3 days. And now a word from our sponsor who also makes this possible for us, Quest. Everyone who's dealing with an HMO like I am knows what a pain in the ass they are. If you want to get any sort of testing done to ensure that you're making your health a priority, I have to wait weeks for an appointment to see my doctor, then get a referral from her to go see the other specialist and wait weeks more for an appointment with the specialist. It's like a million hoops. I can't stand it. But Quest helps you cut through all the insurance nonsense and get the tests you need when you need them. Quest offers over 150 of the same tests trusted by doctors, including diagnostics for specific ailments like STDs, chronic conditions like heart, liver, and kidney disease, as well as testing that is almost never covered by health insurance, like fertility and advanced women's hormone testing. Quest also offers broad packages of tests that go way beyond the standard tests you typically get in an annual medical checkup visit. Concierge medicine and functional medicine doctors charge thousands of dollars for these types of workups when you can just go to Quest. Quest offers them for the price of a night out on the town. Your health and well-being is worth it. You can go and get those results and run to your acupuncturist or whatever. Getting in to see your doctor can take months instead of just a few days, and you can get an annual health profile from Quest that includes all the basics plus biometrics like height, weight, and blood pressure. And then when you finally do get to see your doctor, you can share your results with him or her easily. Visit questhealth.com and use the discount code REALMAY25 and get 20% off your purchase. That's questhealth.com, REALMAY25 for 20% off. There's a link in the description below if you are watching this on YouTube. All right, let's get to it, folks. I'm so excited to bring up my husband. And also, he is a licensed marriage and family therapist, Jiren Montgomery. Welcome, honey.
Hey, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me.
So weird having you call me Bridget.
I didn't know
awkward.
I didn't know what to use, but I thought I'd go with Bridget and keep it professional. No, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful sort of getting that time to hear you. I've been in dozens, if not hundreds of meetings with you and heard your story, but there's something I find so just moving about getting to hear other people's stories, right? There's that
Mhm.
vulnerable quality that you get that you see in AA that I think a lot of people have a hard time with, and I just respect that you're able to do that sort of so much. I've um I've made that same walk you talked about in Temescal up to that rock, which is now sort of burned out, and so it's just very touching, and I'm very grateful to be here. So thank you.
I wanted to have you just because I think you and I both have a long road with sobriety. You know, it was kind of in and out. I wasn't one of those people that got it the first time. I was lucky to have opportunities. I know that you've had a long road with it as well, and you and I both kind of rolled our eyes a lot at the ideas in like 12 step. I generally don't use whatever the program is just because, but in all those rooms we would roll our eyes and we would say something. You and I were both in the same meeting where
Yeah,
the guy was like, everything in my life should be labeled property of AA, and we were like,
yeah.
ah, whatever. Nah.
No, and that,
And now I look around and everything in my
yeah,
life.
it's true. But that's I mean, and I look back and that's ego, right? I had this sort of massive ego because I mean, our stories are very different, right? But so many of the feelings are the same. The feeling of sort of inadequacy or loneliness or feeling disconnected or something along those lines. Because I mean, I was an anxious kid and struggled with sort of connection. I took refuge in fantasy and a bunch of other things like that. So when I found drugs and alcohol, I was like, oh, I can connect. That barrier is gone. And I went straight past alcohol to methamphetamines. Like I discovered crystal meth and was like, oh, this puts me right where I want to be. Because alcohol, I would drink alcohol. That connection would happen, and then I'd just be gone. I had no tolerance. I was just drunk. So I found methamphetamines and was like, oh, I have that connection. I'm not anxious anymore. I feel a part of, I feel like I have something to say. I felt sort of valuable. Um, Very different than your story, but the feelings, all of those feelings are all still there. And that judgment I talked about, the sort of ego kept me from AA for decades. I wanted nothing to do with it. I thought it was corny. I thought it didn't work. I thought it was a cult. I was smarter than this. Um, and I was wrong. I had to humble myself. I had to really sort of listen to other people's advice. And that was really hard for me, reaching out
How
and asking for help.
how old were you when you got sober this time?
So the current time I was in my early 40s. I'm
Yeah, I think
50 now. I've got coming up on 8 years. I had 5 years of being sort of dry, not working a program, but I had only dabbled in AA. I spent my 20s pretty much on meth and any sort of drug you can name, 30s on and off meth. I'd been to a treatment center a couple times. I tried AA, but it really wasn't for me. Uh, but I just got to be in so much pain and so much sort of suffering and didn't know what to do that I was ready. I
yeah.
was ready.
I think one of the reasons too I wanted to have you on to talk is I remember feeling like my life was over at 35, which even 10 years later is such a ridiculous thought. And I feel like in our culture, there is this sense that you have to have it all figured out by your 20s. And if you don't, good luck. And you and I joke a lot that we're kind of late bloomers. And I feel like that was something that kind of prevented me from getting sober was this idea like it was too late for me. Did you
Yeah.
deal with that at all, or
Yeah, no,
were you like whatever?
no, I had this, yeah, there was because I had this thing like, look, I'm a loser. I'm older. The biggest parts of and best parts of my life are over, even though it sucked. Like I was in a lot of pain and misery, much of it of my own making. But there was still this part of me that was either embarrassed or ashamed or afraid to admit that I would be judged and how I would look, which is crazy because you're in a room with a bunch of alcoholics and addicts, and maybe they are judging you, but they're so busy judging themselves that it's sort of the last thing on their mind. And that's there's a passage in the third step prayer that we have a sign printed and it says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Because I don't wake up in the morning rearing to go and help people and be of service and make connection and do all the right things. Like I want to be that person, it takes a fair amount of work for me to stay in that place of gratitude. Um, I mean, if it wasn't for AA, I never would have found that. And yeah, I'm just sort of eternally grateful for that.
What do you think about, you're someone who's kind of worked in treatment, you work in mental health, obviously. What do you think about these kind of alternative paths that people, uh, it's like people
Like
always say
harm
like, oh, this
reduction, things like
doesn't
that.
work, 12, yeah, harm
Yeah.
reduction, California sober. I'm kind of the mind if it's improving the quality of your life, like great. Like I was saying in the monologue, better weed than meth, I guess. But how do you feel about those kind of alternative paths?
Yeah, yeah, and I wear a few different hats here. So I've got like my therapist hat and my 12-step hat and then my, other hat. And when I was first in LA, it was um, in getting sober, there was more of a rigidity to it that it's sort of all or nothing. But I've come to be a little more flexible with that, especially as a therapist. Look, I'm in no position to judge people. What works for them may not work for me. I know for me, my experience has shown me that the 12-step program works the best for the most. But that's not always the case. Some people, harm reduction is great. Some people, medication management is great. Some people, California sober sort of works for them. So you've got to be willing to meet that person where they're at. Because I just don't know. If the option is you ODing or you being on methadone, I mean, I know which one I'm going to take. We can argue
Mm.
whether methadone is sober or Suboxone is sober. But if someone's dead or suffering, I mean, what's really the argument there? When I was in AA, there was this Suboxone is not sober was like the saying. Suboxone, you're not
What's
sober.
Suboxone for people who don't know?
Oh, it's like a opioid antagonist. It blocks opioid receptors, so you can't get high or as high, but you can abuse that, right? You can sort of abuse that. And that's that sort of brings me to, what I love about AA is AA, you can kind of pick and choose and take what you need, right? There's lots of ways to do it in AA. Some people will tell you it has to be this way, but that is not true, right? Find the people that, find your tribe, find the people that have what you want and do it that way. You don't have to do it like everybody else is telling you to do it, right? You can't
Mm.
be on these medication. You can't do this. This isn't sober. That's not sober. Okay, maybe not, but I would rather have you, alive and on the path to recovery or living a full or meaningful life than, in misery or suffering or pain or dead, right? You said you're grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be alive. There's plenty of such times where I could have or should have been dead or even wanted myself dead.
Can
So,
you talk about being dry? Because I've experienced that a little bit, and
it's the worst.
it's the worst.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, the thing about
Can you explain what dry
Yeah,
is for
so
people
I
who
mean,
don't? I think
dry,
I overestimate how many people know recovery
well,
terminology.
yeah, because there's dries. I mean, dry's kind of is more of an AA term. So what I view dry is being sober and still miserable without working a program, right? So it's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna just stop. Stopping while it's enough to I'm not doing drugs. All my problems are, I'm still miserable. I'm still depressed. I'm still anxious. I'm still disconnected. I'm not doing any of these other things. I have no program. I have no sort of way to live. I'm just white knuckling going through this dry. And I did that for 5 years before I went into AA. I thought I'm going to do this myself. I'm just going to put all these systems in place to try to keep me sober. And I just grew more and more depressed. It was like this spiral into depression to the point where I remember having to tell my family. I was very good at hiding it too. right? Hiding my depression, hiding this stuff. And they were all shocked. I said, look, I'm depressed. I need to get help. I know this is related to my substance abuse. I had had kind of a brief relapse um, on some pain medication that had been prescribed me for a surgery. And then I took sort of Valium to try to alleviate that anxiety because, that's what you do. And it got bad really quickly. And I finally said, look, I need to try something new because what I'm doing is not working. And I'm a smart guy, right? I told myself I can figure this out.
Mm.
And figuring it out is not a step. And it's my sponsor says to me, figuring out is not a step. There's 12 of them, go work them. So that those dry years were miserable, but I didn't have the AA knowledge inside of me. And I think there's something about being in AA and then trying to be dry and knowing like the AA is inside you that almost makes it worse. I don't have
Yeah.
a ton of experience with that, but I hear that as well because you've got the AA loop in your head
Yeah.
saying, "Don't do it, don't do this." This is, the slogans are replaying in your head. Or,
Yeah. Stinking
God, I'm
thinking.
gonna have to go get a newcomer chip or something like that.
Thinking, thinking. I mean, but it is so true that when the second year, it's like everything they tell you ends up being true. So I got life gets bigger, you get further away from meetings, meeting makers make it. You get further away from meetings, and then I was so dry my second year, and I really do think I was still detoxing from weed, which was truly just like in my body. And I was miserable, like suicidally depressed in sobriety, and walked right up to the line of like, should I be on meds with my therapist? And I couldn't stop crying. It was bad. And I was like, I didn't get sober for this. And then people would say, well, go back on, go on meds. I'm like, well, I'd rather just, start smoking weed again because Lord knows I would look for any reason to start smoking weed again. And I came right up to that line, and then I think I don't I something shifted like in my brain chemistry. I don't know. It was just something shifted, and I also started working a program again, which probably had something to
Yeah.
do with that shift because it is like for me it was so spiritual, and I've wrestled a lot with God, wrestling with him even right now. And I coming into the program, I think if a thing that like a lot of people are like, nope, like the God stuff is no, I can't do it because it's all over the program. And I was definitely one of those people that would like cringe when I heard the Lord's Prayer because I'm a recovering Catholic, and I've really reestablished an entire relationship to God in the program that I again seems like a kind of miraculous experience to happen because it was so I understand people have been hurt by their
Yeah.
churches. They've been hurt by these things, and I understand the knee jerk kind of like get it away, get it off, get it away. What was your experience of all the God stuff?
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with it. I always sort of felt there was something missing, and maybe it was some spiritual connection or connection to God. I do think that's what it is. My experience as a therapist, I've worked with hundreds of addicts. I did all my training and worked at treatment centers, IOPs, PHPs, sober recovery houses. And I would constantly see these young men and women coming back in, they relapse, they go, they come in, they get sober, they go out, they come in and they go out. And one of the sort of missing ingredients in a lot of these people achieving some measure of sobriety was this spiritual component, right? You can call it God, you can call it whatever you want. AA calls it God or a higher power. Um, you know, the intellectual part of me is resistant to the idea of God, that I can talk myself out of it, that the sort of God of the gaps keeps becoming smaller and smaller until nothing is God. But I'm not at my best when I'm thinking that way. I'm at my best when I'm feeling connected to something greater than myself. And I have that now even in you and our daughter and our family and our community and my friends. And that's the thing about for me sobriety, and this is sort of independent of AA, is that I was so disconnected from myself. Um, not to mention the world around me or God or whomever it is. I was disconnected from myself. I was just miserable in a drift. And it was AA that taught me how to reconnect with myself and love myself and reconnect with the people around me and reconnect with something greater than myself. Um, but I don't, and this will be not blasphemous, but I don't think you need 12 step for that, right? I
Hmm.
think you can find that in other places.
Hmm. Yeah.
Before, when I started off in therapy, it would have been a requirement. You have to do 12 step. If, you have to be doing this. I don't know that I necessarily believe that. Like I said, I think AA works the best for the most, but there are other ways, and I've seen people use those to get sober and stay sober and live these amazingly fulfilling lives.
I've seen so many people get sober through church too. Just not, not do 12 step, just go through their church.
Yeah, I think a church, friend groups, therapy, certain other, relationships, hobbies. There's something about sort of meaning making and purpose. And if you can find that, whether it's in community or your hobbies or something else, then I think you have a much greater chance. To stay sober or at least find fulfillment and meaning because to some people sobriety might be like you said California sober or maybe it is just a few drinks a week or something like that. There's a lot of different definitions for it.
Oh, I'm jealous of those people. All right, we
No, I
have
know.
some hands raised, so let's start talking to the people.
All right. First, I'm going to bring up Amy. Bring you up here.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I feel like I know Jiren and Bridget already, so I wasn't listening to you guys for the first part. I already heard it all. No, I'm kidding. But I feel like I might have made this come into existence because for the number of hours of factory settings I listened to of you guys, I'm just like, totally relate to that. Jiren says the things that I can't articulate. I'm just like,
Yes.
that's me. That's me. That's me.
Yeah.
So I had to fangirl a little bit there. But I don't want to take up too much time, but obviously, if I'm this interested in factory settings, I did do a stint in recovery, or I went to treatment when I was 28. I am what Jiren was just last talking about. Um, I'm like living a fulfilled life, but like I'm not in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
claim to be, and
Yep.
I do recognize my own bullshit because I do know that if I committed to the program, like you said, like in the back of your head, like my life would be even better. But I am very happy and fulfilled with my life now. So I don't know. But when I got there, one of the main things that I learned was that I was unknowingly walking around as a victim. And that is like awful.
Yeah.
Like I feel so horrible for people who never get out of that stage.
Yeah.
Um, Learning like I'm enough. I didn't know what a boundary was, like a true boundary, like respect for yourself or autonomy till I was 28. And I was working as a mental health nurse. So like this is all kind of ironic. But one of the things that everyone picked out of me is that I needed Al-Anon because I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. They just like it was like they could see it from across the room. Like,
Mm.
oh yeah. So then I kind of like once I started working on my codependency in therapy, I was able to kind of get to that point where it's like sounds weird to say it, but meth wasn't my issue. It was having zero respect for myself. That's all. And not knowing how to set a boundary and
Yeah.
not knowing who I was, not knowing I was enough. And kind of the last thing, I mean, I could talk about this all day, so you said, but kind of the last thing I want to say is that at the end of the day, I'm actually grateful that I derailed my life while I was in nursing school. um, because I wouldn't know the other side of like just even having awareness if it weren't for that all happening. So is it odd or is it God, you guys? I had to say that. I know you guys hate that one.
I hate all of them, but love them all as
No,
well.
no, that's one
Yeah,
of the worst ones, though. That's the
I know.
worst offender. That one
I
makes me want
remember
to.
you
That,
guys
yeah,
just like
yeah. I'm
But
reaching for
I
the
mean,
cooking sherry right now.
but take what you can and leave the rest. That's the biggest takeaway I had from the
Yeah.
big book. So
Yeah,
you
I
got
know.
it.
I mean, I know a lot of even on my way back to LA, I ran into somebody and they were talking about their kind of experience with this. And I know a lot of people who have like done kind of found their way in and then they've done 12 step and then they've gone into like matrix energetics and it's like the journey for them just kind of begins and then they don't need. And I know people who are in 12 step forever. I truly think Jiren and I, and you've probably heard us like wrestle with this when we did our factory settings about God, but we talk a lot about this. And Jiren actually said something to me years ago that stuck with me, where it was like, it doesn't matter if you believe or not. It's really what version of you is better.
Yeah.
Like which version of you is a better for more of service, more connected, more
Right.
in faith, because that's a tough one for me. I too try to intellectualize everything, and then you have tragedies that are incomprehensible, like a recent one in Texas where you're like, I don't know about this, and I think those are the moments when I'm really challenged to get out of my intellect and be like, well, does it matter? Does it matter?
Doesn't
Like,
matter how you got there, you're there.
yeah, it doesn't matter what I think either. Which version of me which version of me would handle with something better as a horrible situation also. I don't know.
I don't know. I got through some pretty rough stuff. Like
Yeah.
I've never gone back to using amphetamines. Like I said, like I still drink. When I showed up there, I'm like, I didn't come to quit drinking.
Yeah.
And I know that's like a total bullshit thing, like a lot of people do.
It's not if you're not
But
like some people can drink normally. Like
yeah,
I envy those people. Cousin Maggie is laughing already because I know she's one of
she
those
have the couple
weirdos
beers.
who like I would be that person that would look at half of a glass of wine like that someone left behind and be like, "What freak show left a half a glass of wine? Like who would ever do that?" It was not. That was like bananas to me.
But there is something to be said too, because like every winter we go dry, but it's just really hard to enjoy the summer at the lake without a beer.
Yeah, of
But
course.
so we'll go like I'll just like have a contest with myself every fall, just see how long I can go without drinking. And I mean, bar none, physically you feel way better.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even. And as I get older and older, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just Bridget at 35.
Well, here's the flip side of that too, and I
There
want
you
to get
go.
to some other people.
Yeah,
The
by
flip
all means.
side, I love you. Thank you for chiming
I love you
in.
guys too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything
Um,
you guys did.
Thank you,
too.
Amy.
it's weird because like Gen Z isn't drinking. You have like all these optimized bros, and they're like, "We're never gonna drink," and you look at the numbers, and it is just off of a cliff. And I actually don't know if that's good for society. Like I think
They're just doing other things.
we need a social lubricant, but it's not like everybody's out there an alcoholic. I think everything in moderation, including moderation, unless you're someone like me who does not know how to moderate, and it's not even like people will be like, "Can't you just have one?" I'm like, don't you think? First of all, don't you think I would have tried that? And two, and secondly, like that doesn't even appeal to me. That idea of like just one, I'm like, I have no desire for just one. If you're talking about the bottle, sure. But
Yeah, I think I could have just one, but that one would make me go like, where's the meth dealer? That's the problem. Or does anyone have any cocaine? Right? Like
yeah.
I don't need a second drink, but I need something else.
Who else we got?
All right, Jeff, I'm going to bring you up next.
Unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing, Jiren? Bridget, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello there.
Good. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I just came back from a meeting. I rushed here to get on. I was like, yes. My problem is not the wine being left; it's the coffee that they leave at the meetings. They say alcohol abuse, but now I'm like, no, coffee abuse. So I have to take it home, and then I'm amped up all night.
Oh yeah, we're
But-
coffee addicts, 100%.
My last addiction.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, me too. And I cut that back before I had to quit drinking again. But Yeah, I was talking my early sobriety because I caught the 1990s crack and heroin epidemic in 94 or 5, and I made it to rehab in 97.
I love how you talk about it like you caught a wave, like you're
Oh, it was
surfing.
a wave. Yeah, it was a wave. You had to be there. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah, I checked in first time in 97, and I had a 12-step programs, came out, did meetings for almost 2 years straight, and then a loved one, believe it or not, being the great addicts that we are, convinced me I wasn't an alcoholic. So I went back to drinking for 26 years. I didn't do
Wow.
crack or heroin for that time, and still to date haven't, which is still a milestone. But that stinking thinking, like you said, we're good at. I convinced myself, but it wasn't so bad until it got bad.
Mm.
So 4 years after I got from rehab and meetings, I had met my current wife, and we've been together almost 25 years now. But she's been sober 3 years, coming up on 3 years, and I'll be 2 years next month.
Wow.
God willing. But in the midst of all this, yeah, life doesn't change. I am always glad that I had like a program behind me. I've always done 12-step work. I've tried taking my cousins and other people to meetings and getting them help, but then I hit a wall because my wife was diagnosed with cancer in December of 22, stage 4
Oh
ovarian
no.
cancer.
I'm sorry.
So, they gave her a year to live, and we're sitting here 3 years later now. So it's all great, but in that time, from December till August of 23, August 18th, I just went back to the races. And alcohol became my next thing that I had to give up. I had to come to that agreement actually at a fish show. Was it August 5th, 2023? I remember Loving Cup, the first song coming out of the gate. And then I remember 12:30 being walked down from somewhere from security. And it was that was the worst bottom. And I've been through some bottoms, but
Mm.
I can gratefully say I've been sober at every other fish show since. But yeah, that one was an eye opener, and I attributed it to my hate for God. And I had forgot about. I mean, I always had my first step. I know I was powerless over substances, but never alcohol. But then it kicked in. My instincts kicked back in. My wife was already sober. I got sober after that incident. Because I still don't have no recollection of what happened in New York City. I lost the whole day of my life, amongst many more. But I just recently found out my wife's cancer came back last Thursday. So between that and I've had some work issues, it's been a real challenge of my thinking.
Yeah.
Character defects, because we were doing step 7 tonight at the meeting, and I'm grateful that I have God. I have AA, and then all the other stuff that's good falls right after that. Because if I don't have that God and AA for me centered in my life, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And for the past 23 months, it's been working. And I just got afraid that I was going to start hating my higher power again, because trying to take someone that I love so dearly. That's why I had a hatred. I'm like, how could you? After 24 years, 23 years of great marriage, how could you want to take my best friend? Think of that like you and Jiren. It's just really put me in a bad spot. But I'm so grateful today that I have the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. They really helped me pull myself back out of the hole, because I was at a Cocaine Anonymous. That was my first fellowship, and they saved my life. And I'm just grateful Alcoholics Anonymous is still here, and there's still
Yeah.
people to help you. And that I don't hate God today. I'm in acceptance, although they say this recent bout now is still treatable. Um, they give you a year to live. We're at 3. In the back of my mind, I'm always anxious, but I got to have the coping skills like you were talking about earlier, Jiren. I really like what you had to say about all that.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'll
Yeah.
definitely Say a little prayer for you and your wife.
Yeah.
Sobriety's been the best thing. And
Yeah.
my wife, my wife gave you the piece. She's like, clever. But I just appreciate you letting me come on and talk. But yeah, alcohol took me back out to my knees. And I just know I don't have another run in me because
Yeah.
I don't know how I scathed heroin and crack for so long. I threw it in the dumpster. Can't say I didn't smoke pot and do other stuff, but that's what you do. But
Thank you, Jeff.
I'm sober.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Bless you.
All right, I'm going to bring up Steph next.
Hey,
Hi.
I'm so happy to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Hello there.
Hi.
Really appreciate this evening. Yeah, so much of what has been said. I in November, God willing, I'll be sober for 5 years.
Wow.
So I've been I'm one of the like in and out people. Like
Uh-huh.
should have a punch card. Board and whatever. I'm like, next one's free, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of in and out years and years, and just a lot of it was who I was and how I felt about me that led to drugs and alcohol and stuff when I was really young. So like my first time in or whatever for treatment was for anxiety and stuff when I was 14, but that went on and I started self-medicating. And yeah, I spent my 20s like ramping up, getting and where I'm in Wisconsin, and so
Oh, Jesus.
the black hole. Yeah, so like in my 20s, it's a badge of honor. Like
Yeah.
liquor, she can go out and get all screwed up, and I'm like, I can hold my own. This is nurse, but boo.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of blackouts in Madison.
Yeah. So the other stuff that
Boy.
I like 30s to manage the anxiety. So I'm like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just anxious. No, you're waking up in withdrawal every day is what's happening, but no,
Uh-huh.
possible because I'm too smart for this. And I went to nursing school, so I'll figure this out. These courses are going to teach me all about the why and all this stuff. So once I understand it, I'll have it figured out. Once I know the problem, then I can fix it. And of course, that, yeah, just no. And like no humility, no, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like not at all. And then, yeah, finally, it took years and years. I'm 47 now, but it took a long time. But eventually, yeah, it's one of those things like that you can't, is it God or is it God? One of those things you can't explain. I ended up on a plane to Georgia, to some place I'd never heard of. And I was correct. I was brown, almost blacked out. And someone was driving me to this place. And I woke up, I was hazed because the song Spirit in the Sky was playing.
Wow.
Hold up a second. What? Fell back asleep again. But it stuck out. It was one of those things that I was like, don't forget this. Don't forget this. And I took a picture of the screen that song was playing on there. Like, just don't forget this. Don't forget this. And I haven't. And yeah, I don't know, just getting a different view from different people from a culture that's not the same as it is up here. It's same experiences, same feelings, but it was just expressed in a different way that really just like broke down the barriers. And, who the hell do you think you are? You don't know shit. Little girl,
Yeah.
and I was like, shrunk up and everything. So I just really appreciate everything you guys do. And yeah, I could talk forever about this stuff too.
Jiren and I always talk about that too. I was asking him, like, do you think that it's because we were addicts and we're in recovery that, people are always like, oh, you need to take more authority, Bridget, and no one's going to listen to you if you're always telling them you don't know what you're talking about. But so much of that is, it's not that I don't trust myself, but being someone who's in recovery and who fundamentally has like sold myself out over the past, I feel like a little bit, first of all, I don't feel like I'm an authority on anything other than whatever I've experienced, but and maybe some some things, but not much. And I don't know. There's a part of me that is, I don't always know how to articulate it, and Jiren will kind of push back on this, but when we have this discussion, but I don't, I just don't always trust my thinking, you
Mm.
know? I don't trust that I'm not lying to myself, or that I'm not in denial about something, or that I'm avoiding something because of, 30, 20 years of addiction where I told myself a lot of bullshit. And
Yeah.
even in sobriety, even like when I look at the bullshit I told myself about motherhood or whatever, even now that I have a child, it's like, so you can't really tell it's cope until you're on the other side. It's like, I don't always know if I'm just like trying to cope either. What, honey, what do
Yeah.
you think about this?
I mean, I have so many thoughts running through my head, some from a sort of therapeutic standpoint, and then some from I've heard this our capacity for self-deception can be limitless. And as sort of alcoholics and addicts, when you come into the program, you're taught this, right? Don't trust yourself, get a second opinion, run it through your sponsor, don't make any big decisions. You're told, hey, your whole way of thinking is shit, right? And you can't be trusted. And look, that's largely true. I made some bad decisions. People make some bad decisions, but it's not always true. And you know what? It improves over time, right?
Yeah.
Like that isn't so I think the thing I'm cautious of is that I find people in when I work with people in therapy or even sort of in AA, is that there can be this tendency to sort of devalue themselves even after a certain amount of sobriety and success. And we can frame it in a way that says, I'm just sort of keeping myself honest, right? I'm always, checking, but oftentimes this is a symptom of something else that's underlying, right? That maybe we fixed or worked on or exposed a certain part that led us to drink, but there's something else there. So and you brought it up specifically in the context of you that I push this stuff back. You always say I'm just
An
an idiot,
idiot.
like this is you and Joe, right? Or just these two idiots asking questions, right? And it's like, no, you know so much. I appreciate that humility in you, but I also think you do know what you're talking about a lot more than you sort of let on or allow yourself to believe, but without
Yeah.
going into
It
too
is
much
true though.
detail.
They do it, like, you are kind of told to outsource all of your thinking, and I needed to. Like, I wanted to go to Hawaii when I had like not even 30 days by myself for my birthday. And I announced this in a meeting. I was like, I'm going to Hawaii by myself. And they were like, that seems like a bad idea. And I listened to
Yeah.
them. I listened, but I didn't want to. And I'm glad I announced it because it was like, there is like what is it, like, your brain is like another slogan, your brain is like a bad neighborhood, don't go in it alone. It's like, those posses, like, those thoughts better check themselves. I'm coming with a motherfucking crew.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess there's a what I'm all about. There's things are on a sort of spectrum, a degree. So like that decision in early sobriety to go to Hawaii is much different than say, you know, do I go see this movie or share this advice, right? There's a degree to these sort of things where 10 being really bad decision and one being, okay, maybe this is not the optimal decision, but it's not a bad decision, or maybe it's actually the right decision. And we can really get into this place where we start doubting ourselves too much. I mean, I can do that sort of
yeah.
paralysis by analysis or
So
self.
many slogans.
Yeah, so much. Work the slogans,
We've got 3 hands raised.
Oh,
We're going to
wow.
try and
Okay.
get to everyone before we end here. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Hi,
so
Steph.
Steph.
much.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you.
All right.
It works if you work it. No, I'm just kidding.
Philip, I'm going to bring you up. Yeah, we're going to try and get to everyone, guys. Unmute here.
Hey, Bridget.
Hello.
Jiren. Nice to see you,
Hello
Jiren.
there. Hello there.
Glad to have you guys in Texas, although I'm not there anymore. I think you're a great addition to the community, and I'm glad you guys made it.
Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know about spelunking on methamphetamine or playing tetherball with a blood alcohol level of 0.28. So why do they call it recreational drugs?
That's a good question. Good question.
So my experience, I was in Al-Anon when I was young. My mother and father had lots of issues. Um, I was kind of like the what's what's eating Gilbert Grape. If you've seen that movie, that was kind of my life. Um, and so I didn't ever really get into drugs in a way that, that was affecting my ability to function. I'm one of those lucky people, I guess, Bridget talks about, who didn't ever really get uh, controlled by it. But what I wanted to share was I'm also one of those people who never puts my toe in the water. So when I'm going in the water, it's a cannonball. And
Mm.
my experience was with psilocybin. And so when I tried mushrooms, I didn't just try mushrooms. I did 7 grams the first time I ever did it.
Not
And
microdosing.
and I went to the other side.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was shaped my life going forward, because what I realized when I was there was that I chose to be here
Mm.
and that we're all one. And I think the fellowship that works in 12-step programs works because we are essentially all one.
Mm.
And I think one of the reasons, perhaps one of the reasons that we have the problem that we have, obviously, with opioid addictions and deaths and alcoholism, is that society is sick in a way. I think if you go back to the shamanic cultures where people were more attached to the spiritual side of life and didn't draw such a strong distinction and didn't have the hubris that we have in the Western civilization, that, science and technology are the answer and God isn't real. Um, I think that hubris is one of the reasons why so many people struggle so much. If you have that experience, I'm not recommending that people go do 7 grams of psilocybin like I did, but having some kind of a near-death experience or some kind of spiritual, um, I don't know, not metamorphosis, but that, that personal experience of what's real, really helps
Yeah.
order what you see around you in the world, in a way that gives you a greater depth of understanding and helps you identify those things that are healthy and not healthy, and those things that are, real and not real.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
think that.
Philip. Sorry, I don't want
Go
to cut
on.
you off, but I
No, no,
do
go
want to
on.
try and get to
Yeah,
everyone here.
let's do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah, thank you, Philip.
I wish we had more time with all these folks.
I know. All right, Barry, I'm going to bring you up next.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
Barry.
Hi,
Hi.
Barry.
How are
Hello
you?
there.
Finally get to see you face to face. Anyways, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Gabor Mate. You
Gabor
guys
Mate.
familiar?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I read his book, Hungry Ghosts, and I suffer from ADHD. Okay, and my entire family has a whole history of alcoholism, and everything from my grandfather, who was a very well-known agent in Hollywood, who died in a car crash from being drunk, and all the way to my 2 aunts who died of alcoholism, and it's run through my entire family. And then I worked as a paramedic many years ago, and so we would revive people that are ODing. But I definitely am an addict of some sort, but I've been so scared of all this stuff that I didn't become an addict. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of a weird
I think so.
way to put it. So, um, anyways, I just, it's frustrating. I want to help people. I don't have a problem drinking because I'm afraid of it, and I don't like the feeling in the morning when I wake up because it just, that part kind of got to me. So I never became like that person. I've tried every kind of drugs, by the way, earlier in my life. I did have some problems early on, but I was able to overcome those. Um, you're in a marriage and you've got your wife that's kind of helping you along. Sometimes that helps to have that. Um, but I know I have that in it's woven into my DNA for some reason. And I don't know, is that true that it's woven into your DNA, that you're an addict? Those are the kind of things I want
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, those are big questions, right there. And there's a lot of sort of data behind that of people looking these for sort of epigenetic causes. Is there a gene that's sort of alcoholism or addiction or something like that? And it's pretty inconclusive right now. Right? There's nothing, there is no alcohol gene or addiction gene that's been discovered that's been proven in sort of any way. I think there are probably environmental and genetic factors that play a
Right.
role in that, but it's a little more complex than that.
Yeah, it's because I know this that because of the ADD, my mind goes at about 1,000 miles an hour uh, all
Yeah.
the time, and um, caffeine really helps. Um, so
Yeah.
I certainly probably drink way too much caffeine, but I just I don't really know. I'm just so afraid of it because I've seen so much destruction from
Yeah.
addiction that it's like I won't even. I'm so scared of drinking. I don't drink. I'm around a lot of people that drink. They offer me a drink. Maybe I'll sip it or something, but it just that's the kind of thing that happens to me. I'm just so afraid of it. But I want to help other people. I see people all around me that are definitely hurting. I have a neighbor that's got a daughter that's on, she's fentanyl. She's living on the streets. I had a cousin that died, as a homeless person, yet he owned a business and he was smart and he just went spiraling down.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can intervene and do you intervene with how do you help people? That's kind of the question. So I don't know.
Honey.
Are you waiting for me to jump in on this one? I mean,
Oh,
that's
well,
again, what were you going to say, sweetheart?
I mean, I know people who have been helped by interventions, but
Y-
that's like a whole
Yeah.
process and you need a
Right,
therapist and whatnot. But I will say from personal experience that no one could help me until I wanted to help myself. There was really
right,
no
right,
one would have been able to get through to me. So I think you can attempt, but you can't kill yourself. You can't want something more than someone else wants it. This is
right,
Yeah.
right.
this is always what too in the program they tell you like
Mhm.
something that someone I loved was like carry the mess, not carry the message, not the mess.
Mm.
It's
Right,
like
right.
you can only do so much. You can't, people have to want it. They have to
Yeah.
want it. And I did, even in the days that I was like, I don't want this, some
Yeah,
part of me wanted it and knew that there
right.
was no alternative. But
Yeah,
I know we have one more person waiting and I don't want to.
We
Yeah,
don't
I
want
want
to cut them off.
okay.
Thank you,
Well,
Barry.
I'll
Thanks,
let
Come
you
back,
go
Barry.
Mary.
with
We'll
that.
be talking about this more
Again.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will come
absolutely.
back again. All
All
right.
right.
Okay.
Take
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
care.
Barry.
Barry.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck with the racing thoughts. I get it.
All right. And then finally, we're going to bring up Max. Spotlight. Here we go.
What's up?
Hi,
Hey,
Max.
hey, Max.
So, I'm 11 months sober.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So
Nice.
I'm happy about that.
That's crazy.
It's been life-changing, but I had the same issue you had. I can't moderate my drinking. I can't tell you how many times I go to the bar, I'd be like, I'm just gonna have one beer, and then, you wake up the next morning like, how did I get home?
Yeah.
So
We could tell a lot of stories about looking for my car.
yeah,
What's been the hardest part for you? Can I ask you?
The weekends. I'd say the
Yeah.
weekends are the hardest. There's been plenty of weekends where I've done everything that I wanted to do, and then I'm just sitting at home. I'm like fuck, what do I do?
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy
You're
how much
like-
time you suddenly have when you get sober? I was
Yeah,
like,
you're
how
like-
are the days so
Yeah.
long?
Boredom
I'm
is a
just
killer.
Yeah, but I just go through a mental checklist. I go, well, if I start drinking, then I know it's gonna lead to this. I'm gonna start posting stupid things on Facebook, and then I'm gonna have like
Yeah.
a terrible hangover. I just like
Yeah.
go through this whole list, and then that just like that kills the mood. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want to drink.
Yeah, that playing the tape to the end.
Yeah.
Right? How does this
yeah,
end? It never ends well. If it ended
Yeah.
spectacularly, you would never have stopped. So yeah, that's a very helpful tool.
Yeah. I
When
just
when is
go
your
through
year
that.
anniversary?
My birthday, so August 9th.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a big
So,
deal.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
Thank you for
happy about
sharing
it,
that.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. This is
Congratulations. Thank you. I think, yeah, we're good. Thanks. Thanks,
All right.
Max.
Thanks,
Thanks,
I
Max.
appreciate it, Max. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
We're running
Right.
over.
I
so
know. I
maybe
feel,
we'll
I
try
feel,
to
I
move
feel like
along
we,
here.
I feel like
I
we
don't mean
need
to rush
pray
you
out.
along.
No, that's fine.
We're
I
holding
don't
up the
even I
set.
don't even remember. I don't have much to say because I don't remember when I was drunk all the time. So
Yeah, I get it.
I just love hearing people's stories or even just snippets of their stories of how they got sober or how they stayed sober or where they are on that journey because
Yeah.
it helps me stay sober. Right? That's sort of the point of it because I'll forget. It's easy for me to forget. So hearing everybody's story reminds me.
Yep.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of podcasts and stuff out there about it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is helpful, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Max.
Thanks,
Okay,
Max.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Max.
Good to
Nice
see
meeting
you.
you. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
That's
for
it.
having me.
Thank you, Jaren.
It went so fast.
So
So
fast. I
that was
know.
very
I know. There's so much.
There's so much. I
I
feel
had-
like
I
we
had, like,
just like
notes and
dipped our
everything.
toe in the like this is like a shallow.
Oh, we should start another show where you and Jaren just talk about sobriety.
Oh
all
yeah,
the time.
another show.
Guess what, guy? Well,
Yeah,
we
oh,
could
weird.
do
Oh, yeah, we do have that show.
another show on two-way that's just
Hey,
Jiren and I talking to folks. We could call it factory setting. Actually, maybe we should do that. All right. You guys, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for everyone for showing up. I'm going to do my little wrap out. Thank you, honey, for being you
Thank you
and
for
carrying our
having me.
family and being the rock. I love you.
I love you.
And we'll see you again around here.
Yeah, I'm close.
Jaren's in the other room. Okay.
All right, I'll do my quick wrap out. Thank you. Thank you to our guest, Jiren Montgomery. Thank you to those of you who showed up and asked questions. Thank you to Two Way and their amazing team. Sorry we're a little late, guys. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Bridget.
And thank you, Quest, for sponsoring this show. Visit questhealth.com and use the discount code RealMay25 and get 20% off your purchase. That's questhealth.com. The code is RealMay25 for 20% off. Support the people who support this show. Join us next Wednesday, July 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're with us on the Zoom, it's the same link every time. I don't think we know what the topic is. Also, if you're in the community at Phetasy.com, please suggest topics. We want that to be a perk that you get if you're a supporter of ours, is that you get to suggest topics for us. And thank you guys for getting real with me. I'm Bridget Phetasy. Don't forget to tip your server.